This is the A to Z podcast. I'm Zach Jackson. He's Andre Knott. We're at Akron Jackson, at Dre Knott on most of your favorite social media platforms. We're at facebook.com/A to Z podcast. We're at A to Z podcast.com. Shouts to Scene, to the Honeymoon Grill, to American Fireworks for helping to make this thing happen. They've all been with us for a long time, helping in various ways. We all know what's going on in the world. Help them in different ways that you can. They're all on social media. They've all got different circumstances. But we are truly, truly, truly appreciative of the way you guys have supported us in this through the years. And in speaking for all those places, again, that's Scene, that's the Honeymoon Grill, and American Fireworks. We're truly appreciative of them. So, Dre, we've had a lot of time to reflect, a lot of time to ride bikes with the kids, a lot of time to sleep on the couch, a lot of time to text each other. I'm up from a nap and I'm talking to you.
Yeah, I haven't washed my hands. I haven't washed my hands so much probably in my entire life. As much as I like after everything, and it should be this way. I mean, like after everything we do, it's like we've told our kids so much. It's just like it's amazing when you just pay attention to the little small details of life. And everything that you touch. I guess the one thing that we got to get out to everybody out there, and I'm not, some mental coach, but how you doing mentally? Because this is a mental thing. It's a physical thing, but really mentally for all of us. Mentally, how do you get through just kind of, like you said, doing all the bike rides? We took the kids to the park today and just kicked the soccer ball and ran around and just found a way to get them dirty and keep them moving around as they kept their 6 feet distance from everyone that came close. I think the more maddening thing is, and somebody tweeted this out, or I've seen every Instagram post that you can see, and every person that thinks so funny. But it's amazing how different some people take this whole situation. And some people's jobs aren't allowing them to social distance or, stay away because they have to work, and my heart goes out to them. But the people that don't, it's like, what are you doing? Like, I just don't get it. Like, I don't like being told what to do. I don't like what this situation has put any of us in. But the more you don't pay attention to it, the longer this shit is gonna last. Like, come on.
Right. Like, honestly, I've been on more phone calls, non-work phone calls, because you have time, right?
Right.
Like,
right.
People are at home or people are at their desk, but I mean, mostly they're at home, right? They're not,
right.
Like people that I talk to, they live and work in the sports world, so they're not at practice. They're not in team meetings. They're not on recruiting trips. They're at home or they're on a walk, right? And like what I have done with like almost every conversation has turned to, hey, this is only like day 7 of this. Like, you better keep your chin up because in 3 weeks the same shit's going to be going on.
Exactly.
and
exactly.
Just speaking for me, which is really all I can do. I've been mostly good. I've been known to pout a little bit and make myself snap out of it on a normal day. And I know there's been a couple times you've texted me like, what's up? And I'm like, I'm here pouting. And you're like, you got to stop. And I'm like, I know I am. I'm just saying, like, at this very moment, that's what I was doing. Like, I got up from the computer. I got up from whatever project I was half-assedly working on because I was that bored. And I went and laid on the couch. And when I picked up my phone because it beeped, right, or it lit up, and it was you, and you said, how you doing? And I said, I'm not doing real well, but I'm okay.
Yeah, you're like, I'm pouting.
One thing I left out, if you are new here, we do occasionally say bad words and venture into mature/immature subjects. So if that's not for you, or if you're in an environment where you can't have that, put on earbuds or come back another time. But a couple episodes ago, when Dr. Knott was doing his wash your hands, wash your ass thing, and we were all laughing. Last week, when you were still in Arizona, and before, all of this stuff had kind of closed everything, I texted you and I was like, yo, and if you guys could ever see our text, like, that's a sign that it's serious because it usually starts with, hey, dumbass, hey, tubby, whatever.
Right.
And so he gets it like 20 minutes later and he's like, what's up? And I'm like, I just want you to know I washed my ass today. I'm good. Like, it was time. It was 4 p.m. It was time to shower.
Right. It's amazing. It is truly amazing, man. And I never think about this. I really don't, because I bullshit with you so much that our podcast is just an extension of us, just us being us. That I take for granted some of the things I say on this podcast because it's just you and I being you and I. And I mean no offense to that. If anything, I think this is the realest me you get in any form of any of the jobs that I have. So I like, when you're hanging out with friends, and I hope anybody that's listening to this kind of gets it. When you're hanging out with a buddy or talking to your buddy, you say all kinds of crap that you don't recall because it's just us being us. Mm-hmm. And whether it be you texting something like that or like a John Tellich, who I have all this respect for. I grew up you've heard, if you've listened to this podcast for a long time, if you're a long time listener, you know that, for Zach and I, as nerdy as it may come off and as nerdy as it may be, and as much as the world has changed, the John Telliges and the Jim Donovans and the Terry Plutos and the list could go on of just people we grew up reading, listening, watching. Even Tom Hamilton. Like, for me, my life has been this unbelievable, just set of being around all these people. But when I have John Tellis texting me, like the day after that, he texted me a week ago. I was in Arizona, and I woke up to this text at like 6:45 in the morning, and obviously it was 9:45 back here. But John Tellis is like, "Hey, Dr. Knopf, following your script. I washed my ass, and and it's like, and like I cringe because I'm like, oh my God, John Tellis is like, like, oh, then you remember how many people listen to your podcast, and I hate that, and I don't hate. It is what it is. I am what I am. I'm not perfect. But that slogan, and if we had the time and we had a print press, I guess we could put that shirt out and people would buy them and have nowhere to wear them. But that's going to be the slogan of the pod for 2020, I guess, is wash your hands and wash your hands. That was never my intention, but that's kind of how this podcast rolls sometimes.
And we've talked about that before. And also, this goes for us, but this goes for anybody that has a job where there's a microphone, or anybody that insists on being on Twitter or wants to be or needs to be on Twitter. Like, it's simple life math. Like, the more you talk, the more likely you are to say something dumb. We've both done it.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
exactly.
There's more egregious than we've done. There's more frequent than we've done. But it's how it goes. A long, long time ago, you told the story about being young in the business and someone telling you about the red light going on the camera, And like, that's how it is. And you get to a certain comfort level to where you don't think it's going to happen to you. But guess what? It can happen to you, right?
It can happen to you. It definitely can.
One time in the history of this podcast, guys, one time have we gone back and taken and made something so you didn't hear it. And it was absolutely nothing that either of us said about a coworker, a person, a group of people. It was, we were laughing so hard and getting personal about something completely silly that we came back at the same time and said words that, had someone taken those words out of context, could have been construed as us going down a road we didn't want to go down. That's it. One time. We've been doing this for forever. The other times we've said, I mean, there's been times I've gotten texts or tweets and said, "Oh boy, did I really say that?" or more likely, "Oh hey, I was kind of half-assed listening to your podcast, and then I was really listening, and boy, did you come close to saying this." And that's right. Yeah. It's okay.
Well, that's the thing. We have friends that know the other parts of the stories. And they're like, "I can't believe you guys went there. Or we said that." That's been the positive of this podcast, but it's the tightrope. It's a tightrope, right? I mean, and I think that's the beauty of doing these things. But it's also, you have to be not scared, but you've got to be afraid because loose lips sink ships. And in that same quality, before we did this podcast today, there's a Jacksonville radio station that I've gone on for years, all the way back to when I was a Brown sideline reporter. And they called the other day and they texted the other day, and they're like, "Hey, we just signed Joe Schobert. We would love to get you on." And my first answer is instantly like, "Guys, I'm not on the Browns beat anymore." Call, and I used to be like, "Call Zach Jackson." Call, this guy will give you good information, or this guy. And but I got nothing better to do. So I just said to the guy, I was like, I don't cover the team, but, I know him. And he was like, we'd rather talk to you than anybody else. We just love having you on the show, da-da-da-da. And I go, okay. So in true sports radio fashion, yesterday I was supposed to go on. And right when I was supposed to go on, they traded for – who was the quarterback they traded for? They got rid of Foles.
Yeah.
And they called me and they gave the call of, hey, Dre, I know you worked in radio. And I was like, dude, I don't care. I'm not going anywhere.
You're not hurting my feelings.
I'm like, talk Nick Foles. I was like, if that gets you through your 4 hours, get through your 4 hours talking Nick Foles. Andre takes no, I don't, it's fine. Call me again tomorrow. I have nothing to do. So they called me again today, and I did the interview, and I think this will be a good segue into free agency talk, and I'm sure we'll get back into not going anywhere talk sooner than later. And I started talking about Joe Schobert, and I want to think on our last podcast, we didn't have a heated debate. I don't think we ever have heated debates, but we obviously were on our own sides about who and what Joe Schobert is, what his worth is. You even said, hey, he won a couple games for him. And in our day and age of doing this, where you have the spectrums from the Michael Irving to you tweeted her out perfectly today, he needs to get off the Twitter machine. The Stephen A. Smiths, all the way to the Tony Grossies, all the way to my two dads. Everybody talks and wants to inform and entertain and put their stake down as the baddest shit talker in the game. And be the most – I don't know if anybody wants to be the most informative. We should have more people that want to be the most informative. But I had a wrestling match with my own mind today, Zach, talking about Joe Schobert. Because on one hand, what's his contract that he signed for? I read it and just kind of glanced and chuckled. He got a lot of money.
Let me cut you off real quick to say this. This is the perfect example of what we forget. And I'm not scolding anyone here. I'm saying we. Joe Schobert signs the deal, and of course his agent puts it out there 5 years, 53, right? And in MLB, in the NBA, he's getting every dime of that. In the NFL, it's the guarantees, and the guarantees are like 22. So you have to keep that in mind, right?
Yes, you're correct. And 22, and look, and I hope we have young journalists or young kids that are listening to this, because this is something I go through a ton too. I'm admitting it. Joe Schobert, the person, and I've met him only probably 4 times, but I had a couple really good interviews with him. I had a really good one with him at the end of the last football season where there weren't a lot of guys around. It was a lot of one-on-one. I know you had a one-on-one interview with him when you went out and golfed with him and went out and saw him in his own hometown. And I will admit, I don't want to say that jades, but that changes how you look at someone you cover.
Sure.
When you can get quality time with them, and you're just not in the locker room with 30 other reporters or 20 other reporters. So I've had a small amount of time, whether it be 45 minutes, an hour, where I got to know Joe Schobert, not the guy in a helmet and shoulder pads. I just got to know the person. And as I start talking about him on the radio today, like on one hand, I want to be like, man, $23 million for a guy that can't stop the run, but he's a guy that plays every day. Like, I had that real, and I guess what I'm saying is, because I'm a real person, the tug of war in me wanted to go on, on one shoulder, Zach, I wanted to go on and say, good for him, he's getting the money, but no way in the world I'd give him $23 million in guaranteed money to be on my football team. But because I know the guy pretty well, and I know how he felt towards the end of the football season last year, how he felt like it was right after the T-shirt stuff that Freddie Kitchens had worn. And I'll say this now, and Joe just came right out to me, and he was like, I'm just sick of all the bullshit, man. I just want to play football and win football games. He goes, I'm sick of having to answer questions about fucking T-shirts and tennis shoes and clown. Like he had just and I didn't say this when it happened because I didn't feel like it was my place. But now that he's moved on and he's got his money, good for him. He's going to say all the right things. But we had one of those conversations. You know what I mean? We had just a straight up like he's like, dude, I just want to play football. I want to, me and my wife want to help take care of families, want to help with the community we're in, but we're sick of all the sideshows. I just want to play football. And that comment to me came up as I was talking about him today. And I thought in my mind said I was going to go on and be like, yeah, good luck with that. And like 3 minutes into the conversation, I couldn't say anything bad about Joe Schobert. I couldn't say anything bad about him. I'm like, I'm happy for him. I'm like, he's a good dude. He's going to play every down. You don't got to worry about him when he leaves the facility. You know that he knows where to line guys up. And in the back of my mind, I kept saying all this good stuff, and I kept thinking, I don't want him to leave my defense, but hey, God bless him that he got this money. I'm happy for him.
Yeah. Well, you know what is part of the complication of this conversation, and frankly, we've been having it since November, is that the Browns have not had many guys like this, Trey. The number of them that have made to the second contract with the team, given all the turnover, has been low, and the ones that have gotten done in advance, right? They've been locked up and gone, and we've been saying he's the imperfect player, but man, reliable, smart, wise, logs all those snaps, calls all the signals. There's a price on that. And I did not talk to Joe about the negotiation at all. But I know that his demands, the Browns decided they weren't going to meet them. And the Bengals wanted him badly, and his best friend in the world plays for the Bengals. And they were not going to go to the number that he wanted. So he signed for that. The Jaguars love it. I don't know if that means that Tevin Smith is just not going to play football, or if they want to have two 220-pound linebackers. I don't know.
They're moving Miles Jack to outside linebacker, I was told.
Yeah. No, and that makes sense. And I mean, you usually just play two of them anyway, right?
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, the Browns did not get better for him leaving, right? You have to acknowledge that, and time will tell. And based on the expenditures that we've seen in 4 days from the Browns, it does not look like that they value linebacker. Now, to me, we're not going to know any answer until October, November. But to me, when you play in a division with Lamar Jackson, I need to value linebackers. And you could flip that and say he's not the linebacker for that anyway. But I just think you do. And I just...
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. Well, see, this is where I think you and I, we're in the same neighborhood, just different street. You're right. And I said that on this Jacksonville interview. I said, hey, in the AFC North, my only qualm with having Joe Schobert is you have to have somebody that can run downhill and meet the running backs that you're going to have to meet at the point of contact. At the point of contact, he has issues at times because of his lack of size. You mentioned Lamar Jackson. Fair enough. You're going to see him twice a year. The Steelers, for all their everything else, they still run the ball. They come downhill on you, and they got those big 320-pound guards that are going to come down on middle linebackers. The Bengals, say what you will, they will run the football at you as well. I think we all agree that the three teams that you play, when things are going right and the weather is cold, November and December, they're going to try to knock the snot out of you. And to me, that's the most difficult thing that Joe Schobert has to do on a football field. I guess I would throw back at you is this. Yeah, when you play against those three running teams, and especially Lamar Jackson, linebackers should be important. But what type of linebacker should be important is the question I would ask you.
Yeah, and that's why the Lamar Jackson question complicates it, because we also just said that in most of the other games, 70% of the snaps you're playing two linebackers, right? Mm-hmm. Off the ball, true linebackers who are either dropping and reading the play, who are lining up on a tight end and covering him in man, or occasionally, coming up to read the run or to blitz to keep you off balance. But what we know what Schobert's best at, and that's dropping in coverage and making the read based on what he either sees from the quarterback or reads in the pattern / the alignment. Right? That's where he's made his plays, is beating guys to spots and stripping the ball or getting in there. So. You just look at Kirksey wasn't for any other team. Kirksey was an easy cut, and it probably was still an easy cut for the Browns. I mean, when you make $7 million and you haven't played, it's just the team can't keep you. They can't pay you.
Yeah,
that right.
Isn't it funny that Mike Pettin got him $8 million a year though? I mean, we don't know that.
No, he only got 4 guaranteed. Dre. He got 4 guaranteed.
Hey, that's a lot of money to get guaranteed for barely playing 2 years.
Yes, but that's also but that's like the baseline for a starting linebacker.
Right.
I mean,
and you know what? And I mentioned this earlier, and here's where you and I may be in the same ballpark. I don't know if either one of them deserve the money that they asked for, but it's hard for me to let go of 2 veteran linebackers. And basically, you're going to the 2 kids you drafted last year, and you're going to the guy you picked up from, was it Chicago?
Green Bay, BJ.
Or the Green Bay Packers. Yeah. Packers, yeah. Because linebacker is a leadership position. And this has been the Browns to me. This is a story that we don't talk about because there's so much turnover and because there's so much controversy. But I think this plays into why we get there. just having leadership and just telling guys how we're going to go about this. Can Mack Wilson do that after 1 year? Can Taki, who I don't even want to talk bad about people right now, but you're going to ask a lot for those two guys.
Yeah.
Like suddenly, and you're going to ask a guy that hasn't been a part of your team, and you just don't. The fabric of who you are and what you are changes so often that you never become anything, and that's the issue. But at the same time, sitting here right now, I couldn't have a parade for giving Schobert the same contract he got from Jacksonville. He deserves it. Good for him. Yeah. I wouldn't have gave it to him. I couldn't have given Kirksey the money that he got either because, well, he hasn't played the last 2 years. And I say that, and Kirksey never missed a damn snap until 2 seasons ago,
That's right? That's right.
Schobert hasn't missed a snap in the last 2 years. I guess what we're really getting at is the NFL is unforgiving, and it's not for long, and it's not fair.
Yeah.
And I hope they figured this out.
Schobert missed a snap in 1 game last year. He played 100% of the defensive snaps in 15 of the 16 games last year.
That's amazing.
So,
that's amazing.
And everybody kind of knew this was coming, but it just became official as I logged on Twitter. Todd Gurley has been released.
You knew that was coming.
And
did I text you what? Well,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, the situation there, guys, is that they couldn't trade. They couldn't give him away. They had to pay him a $5 million roster bonus. If they kept him, it was going to become 10 or 13, something like that. So here's a guy that just 2 years ago was the back of backs and the perfect back for that offense that was revolutionizing the NFL, right? Because he could get between the tackles and he could catch it on the perimeter. Yep. And turn his shoulders up and pound 220-pound linebackers who tried to get him when he had his team,
yep.
Right? And 2 years later, he's looking for a job and now is going to go sign with the Bucks or the Steelers or someone like that for much less money. But this
with the Bucks.
This should hit home. It's the perfect segue to this conversation from a Brown standpoint for this reason. We just had a very healthy debate on you got to pay these guys. What do you value at certain positions, right? And if analytics-driven front office or just for certain reasons, and Kirksey's reasons were obvious, you're not going to pay these guys. That's fine. But Nick Chubb is the best player on the Cleveland Browns.
No.
Nick Chubb right now is the perfect player. No baggage, no injuries, no bullshit, no nothing. And he's a year away from being extension eligible. And Todd Gurley was the first running back to do this, and Zeke did it, and the rest of them are doing it because their only recourse is you finish year 3, Dre, and you don't come back to camp until you got that money, right?
Exactly.
And so now it's great this week that the Browns are handing out $30 million to Conklin, $22 million to Hooper, maybe more to get this safety if they can get something worked out with the Vikings, right? But a year from now, the best player on your team, after you pay the second best player on your team, 50 guaranteed, Myles Garrett, the best player on your team who's a running back is going to want his money. And how you handle that, woo-wee!
Well, and to take it a step further off of what Zach just broke down to you, earlier today, Rams gave quarterback Jared Goff, who will have his $21 million roster bonus paid today, while another $43 million of his future salary and bonus becomes fully guaranteed. He now holds a whopping $94 million dead cap figure for 2020. So, yeah, you can talk about Gurley being injured, not having the same explosiveness, and all those other things, but you can only pay so many of these guys these huge numbers to go off of what Zach is
That's
saying.
right. You start playing with the big boys, and one mistake can sink the whole ship. It really can.
Now, if the Rams won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, I think everybody right now, you could say, hey, we won a Super Bowl. Goff got us there. Gurley was great that year. We won. But you didn't win a Super Bowl, and now you're still trying to figure out how to get to the Super Bowl. And the key to make that offense go when it worked, there were two guys, Gurley, and what's the little third receiver they had that got banged up 2 years ago before they went to the Super Bowl? Name is beyond me.
Cooper Kupp or Brandon Cooks?
Cooper Kupp. Kupp got hurt, and that's when Bill Belichick knew, take them away, you bunch it up, you stop the run game. He can't throw the ball outside the numbers. They beat him in the Super Bowl. Now, all of a sudden, the smartest coach ever, everybody told me a year ago, and I don't like banging on that guy, but it was ridiculous how far the media went in trying to make that guy out to be the Richie Rich of coaches. Now you got Jared Goff Now you got Goff sitting here with $94 million dead cap space, and I hate to tell you this, Zach, and I hate to tell you, Rams fans, he ain't even in the top 15 quarterback in my book. And you got to build around him and try to win a Super Bowl, and you just lost one of his best weapons, who I know is banged up. And like you said, this is the Browns in 2.5 years or 3 years or maybe 2. You do have to pay Chubb. You do have to pay Myles Garrett. You most likely are going to have to pay Baker Mayfield.
Well, the alternative to not paying Baker Mayfield is not good. Let's put it that way, right? It means he flopped.
Well, let me ask you this: is Jared Goff? I understand why they gave the contract to Jared Goff, but is he worth that?
No, but it was all part of the package of we've got Gurley, right? We have this offense that works, and when McVay signed his extension, he said we're going to extend the quarterback because the whole thing is you got to dance with the one that brung you at some point, right? And he has regressed. Now, I don't watch these guys every day. Right. I don't know, but is it the league figuring him out? Is it the league figuring the offense out? Which I'll give you your props. You were first to notice that was coming with their 3 formation stuff, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, put it this way: on the open market, right, this week, where Phil Rivers got 1 year, $25 million. Where Tom Brady was the big domino, and there's question marks with those guys, where Cam doesn't have a home yet, where Andy Dalton doesn't have a home yet, where Ted Bridgewater got all this money. Like, all of those guys would have signed before Jared Goff if he was on the open market. He'd be like Dalton and Cam and an injured Cam right
Absolutely.
now. I mean, we know if Cam was healthy, he would have had a job in the first hour, right? But no one knows.
Right, no doubt.
No one knows, and he's only under contract for a year. And so until some team can figure it out, yeah.
well, and here's the thing: we all know come Halloween, some team's going to be playing some XFL quarterback, right? The team that has the perspective to realize, do you have a coach that's been around long enough? Do you have the right situation that you can make Jameis Winston? Because I still believe for all the pick sixes Jameis Winston threw, and for all the injuries Cam Newton has gone through, they can still win you NFL football games, right? I think both of us agree to that. But you got to have the right situation to put them in. Like, Tannehill isn't worth what he got, but Tennessee got to the AFC Championship game with him. It's hard to mess up what's gotten you that far.
It really is,
right? Even though it is. Like and you asked me all the good questions last week. But you're like Phillip Rivers, and I'm like, well, I think Phillip Rivers can get you in the right situation. I'll continue saying it. And in Indianapolis, he can get you to the AFC Championship game. I believe it. He can lose it for you, but
sure.
He
will. But listen, here's why I like that signing. And again, he's not a guy that I see all the time. It's clear that he wasn't the same player in all these Chargers games. It always came down to the last drive. He threw picks last year when previously he had thrown touchdowns. Right? Those are facts.
Right.
But you look now, he comes to Indy, and I'd still like to see them upgrade the offensive skill group around him.
Yeah.
But at least 9 games are inside, right? It's a super winnable division. And that team, they went out and made the move. They said, we're not drafting a rookie quarterback. Phil is our guy for now, and we're worried about now. They traded their first-round pick for DeForest Buckner. They've spent when they haven't. Their offensive line, which is considered upper tier of the league, is back completely intact. Like, yeah, that's a go-for-it team. They feel like a little bit of injury luck, which is part of the reason that they feel like their skill group hasn't been what it's been. They're right there. And that is the thing. If you win your division, you're in and you play at home. Or, only one team gets a bye now, so that's new. And that can't change your thinking. It changes the realities of it, right? So the AFC, Jerry, we know. There's Kansas City and there's Baltimore. And to me, right now, there's a pretty significant step to that next group. But I think if you look at that next group and all the teams you can argue about where they are they to the top end of that group? Are they at the bottom end of that group? Are they really in that group, which is an argument you could have about the Browns, and one that you can't answer until we see the Browns play because they change everything every damn year. You can look at the Colts with Phillip Rivers playing competent, efficient football, and you can say they are at the top of that group. I don't think anyone could argue that.
Speaking of teams that were in the top of that group, let's just stay in that division. We don't talk like this very often, but if I was a fan of the Houston Texans a couple of days, I would have been heated. I'm curious. Just your thoughts of just what Bill O'Brien pulled off. And the Houston situation is different. They've allowed the head coach to have full autonomy, Bill Belichick style. We've seen it with Mangini here. We've seen it with Bill Parcells at different times. We've seen it with Bill Belichick. But to trade away the best receiver in the game for David Johnson, who hasn't been healthy since he had one good year, and no offense to Dan, I'm not here. It's not here to bang on a guy, but I don't give up. To me, DeAndre Hopkins, I really thought it was a mistweet. I'm being dead serious. That
you did. You sent me the screenshot and you said, "Tell me this is not true."
Right. I didn't think it was real. Like I really was like, this isn't real. And still at this moment at 4:00 on Thursday, I'm still sitting here going, they really traded DeAndre Hopkins for that?
Yeah. So a couple things here. One, we know Bill O'Brien is doing what Mangini did 11 years ago, and that's trying to be Bill Belichick, and that usually doesn't get guys that aren't really Bill Belichick anywhere. That being said, can you completely believe that the contract was going to be an issue, that the diva receiver was an issue behind closed doors? Yes, but the fact is you've got Deshaun Watson, one of the best young quarterbacks in the game. When you've got that kind of weapon, you keep those two together because that's how you try to win the Super Bowl. And as soon as it popped, I think it was in Peter King's column on Monday morning, as soon as I woke up and read that there's been some talk, I just knew it was going to happen because that's not something that gets out, right, unless it's going to happen.
Right.
And the motivation for that was that the Texans, through O'Brien and through the Laramie Tunsil thing, had given up so many picks that they needed to get some picks. And if they weren't going to sign him, I mean, it's a way of doing business. It just is.
Yeah.
However, the David Johnson thing, I mean, that was an albatross. The Cardinals are trying to get rid of him. What did we just talk about 5 minutes ago? A running back that had one big year that got money and now was weighing his team down. Like, that's a total – the Cardinals should have been giving you picks to take him off of the hands.
Right.
And
the other thing is anymore. They were going to cut him anyway.
Yes, this is not Madden. It has to fit. The one fucking receiver that seems like the perfect fit for Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury is DeAndre Hopkins. They could have asked for anything and gotten it. Anything.
It's
to
scary,
take David Johnson back would be saying, we want more. We want more. We want all your late round picks the next 2 years so we can turn them into other things. And they did that deal a second and a fourth.
Yeah. I mean, my mouth dropped. I literally, I texted
and that's
everybody
if David Johnson gives them 12 good games this year. It's still the bad trade.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. The Browns running back core that the Houston Texans used last year can give you what David Johnson will give you.
That's exactly right. He is theoretically better than Carlos Hyde. He is better than Carlos Hyde. But because he's so banged up and because he's such an upright guy, you can't count on him giving you more production than Carlos Hyde gave you. You can't.
No, you can't. And I got nothing against coaches having some say in who they coach. I don't. But this is one where you need someone that runs interference, right?
Yes.
You know, it's just like in friendships when we can go to bars again, and suddenly after drinking 5 Trulies, you want to switch over to vodka, or you want to switch over to you want to have a Patron or something. Usually you got a friend or somebody like, you might want to stick with Trulies, bro.
Hey, let me give you a better comparison. This is LeBron at 25, surrounded by yes men, right?
Yep.
Someone needed to say, hey, go to Miami. It's great. You sure you want to do this? Well, trust me. Sleep on it one more day, and also don't go on ESPN and break up with Cleveland.
Right. You just need that one guy. Bill O'Brien didn't have that one guy.
Yeah.
And that's sad. Yeah. It's sad because
they would give you anything for DeAndre Hopkins. Anything. And plant a fake rumor that the Jets were going to give you their one and call back and say, well, we could just do it for the one to the Jets. Make it.
Right. That's all he had to do.
Yes.
You just said it. That's all he had to do. Or just say, hey, we're going to call Bill Belichick and see what he wants for him. What is it? All right. That is, it's.
I mean, he paid a 2 for Mohamed Sanu.
Right. Bill,
and that's the same price as DeAndre Hopkins? Are you fucking kidding me?
It's unbelievable. Like I said, if I was a Texans fan, I'd be heated. And then later on that night, you get Minnesota trading away a good receiver. I don't want to put him down, but he ain't DeAndre Hopkins. He's good. And look what Buffalo gave up for him.
Right.
Like, it's mind-numbing.
But you know what, Jerry? That to me was a fair price. I think it was a little heavy, but if we were sitting there talking, right, if we'd have done that a week ago, right now we'd been doing this podcast, and you just said, okay, they're going to trade Diggs. What's going to be the asking price? I said, well, it's going to start with a 1 and something else. Right.
And that's fair. That's a fair way to go about doing that. I would have no problem with that and going in that way. We haven't talked about the elephant in the room, and I'll ask you before we get out of here, just your thoughts on the Browns guys. And I got to say, I've had the tug of war with the NFL going about doing business this week. It still makes me feel icky at times when money's going across and things like that, and people are getting told to go home and not work and losing money and things of that nature. So it still feels a little icky, but it has been a distraction when I've been able to take my mind away from everything that's happening, which is difficult. The Tom Brady situation, and it's still not official as we are talking, but I think if we were – we got to talk about Vegas being closed, by the way, before we get out of here. But if I were a betting man and you and I were putting down, our percentages of where we thought Tom Brady would go, I will admit to you, Zachary, Tampa Bay was not high on my list of where I thought Tom Brady would pick and choose. But I look at the cockpit, as our man Phil Savage would always say. You look at the cockpit, and then you look at the coach. I get it. He's probably the one to be – after being with Bill Belichick for 20 years, I think all of us would like to get a Kango and hang out with my man that coaches down there.
I just want Brady to start wearing a Kango for sure.
I saw you say that. That was awesome. Just how surprised were you when that all kind of finally came down that that's where he wants to go and where he's going to go?
Yeah, I would say I was fairly surprised because, you look at just the best football situation, it felt like Tennessee maybe, right?
Yep.
The Chargers are in L.A. The Chargers have a ready-made defense, right? The Vegas team is Vegas. Gruden's Gruden. All of those seem to make more sense. But the only thing my worries here from a football standpoint are Brady has not been a vertical thrower, right? He's 43 years old. Now, has he had those vertical guys? No, he hasn't had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin since he had Randy Moss, which was a decade ago, right?
Right.
But I just want to say, we'll see how it goes. But obviously they become on paper anyway, if Tom Brady can still play, and I think that he can, they become, first of all, they become a team that's going to be on the maximum number of national TV games. With Carolina being down and Atlanta kind of being in the middle, they become a team that should be competing for the top of their division and competing for a playoff spot. They become fascinating, especially if they can get a running back. And I think that's the main thing you have to get for a 43-year-old quarterback. I need a banger running back, right?
No doubt.
That can get me through October and November, right? And then worry about it. It's going to be warm weather or playing inside.
Yeah.
But I just want to say this, 20 seasons in a league where the average career is 3 years. The Browns have been back for 21 seasons. They've been through 9 coaches. Tom Brady was in New England for 20 fucking years. So if you are one of those people that started kindergarten in the same school district or the same cluster of private schools and went all the way through for 13, that's 13 years. LeBron's been in the NBA for 17 years. This is his 4th team. Right? If you count 2 stints. 20 years with the Patriots.
That's amazing.
It's unbelievable. And, I guess kudos to all parties for showing class, for Tom for coming out and saying this is what I want to do. As far as making the schedule, which I think is put on hold now because of this, that was the big shoe to drop. Where's he going to go? The Browns won't be as out front as they were last year, but they'll be back in the mix. The Bengals with the number 1 pick are certainly a 1 Thursday, 1 Monday type of team, right? The Ravens are a 6 national game type of team. The Browns play both New York teams. They play the Cowboys. They play the Eagles. Peter King floated the rumor that they will host the Eagles on Thursday, week 2, as part of the Hall of Fame festivities. So I just think that is kind of the big story. But that shows the power of the NFL, Dre, is that honestly, I might have gone right into Browns and I might have talked more about some other teams. I'm not saying I would have ignored Tom Brady in our NFL discussion here, but we might have had to go 3 more things before I'd have brought it up had you not brought it up right there.
Yeah. No.
You know?
I agree. I think it's one of those situations where I think Tom Brady is iconic. Like, it was one of those stories that, like, I've got Steelers fans. Like, there's so many people that hate him for his 20 years. Browns fans can't hate him because, well, the Browns have been the Browns and can't get out of their own way. But, like, I knew that there were, like, 4 sets of friends I could text, right?
Yeah.
And they were all celebrating. He's out of the AFC. And it's like, dude, he's been doing this for 20 years, and you guys still are treating him like he's Attila the Hun. Like I just think that the momentum that it takes for him to go to Tampa Bay, and to me, I guess the real story, and if we were in Boston doing this, I think it's kind of – the kid in me still thinks it's kind of cool to see guys in other uniforms. The adult in me sees great players playing in uniforms they never had any business putting on, and it's weird.
Right.
Whether it be Joe – remember, we were kids when Joe Montana played for the Kansas City Chiefs. Got him to the playoffs the one year, but just wasn't the Joe Montana.
Sure.
You always hear our dads talk about Willie Mays playing for like the Mets, O.J. Simpson playing for Rams. They're like there's names. It happens, and we all want to be nostalgia, and we want guys to. We want everybody to be Cal Ripken and Kirby Puckett, or trying to think of other guys that play for one team, or Tony Gwynn. It just doesn't happen that often. So this is going to be odd. And you just don't – I mean, heck, we're going to get 2 of them this year, and probably more. You're going to get Phillip Rivers. Yeah. He's played forever. It's going to be weird to see him in an Indianapolis uniform.
Well, one thing –
it really is.
Yeah. One thing I would say is that's the NFL. And the other thing I would say is, did you see the Josh McCown tweet?
Yeah. That was great. It had Odell.
Yeah.
And
if you guys missed it's on my timeline. Josh McCown put 2 examples out. He was throwing warm-up tosses in a Tampa Bay uniform, and they used it to put Tom Brady's head there. And then he was walking the Browns sideline in his Browns uniform, and they used it to make the Odell Photoshop.
It was priceless. It was priceless.
Priceless. Absolutely.
When the Browns
priceless.
And this is funny that it's so good. This is 40 minutes in. I can't believe we're getting to this. Super. And I don't like getting in people's pockets, but when you heard that he's going to be the most expensive tight end in the game, you cringe because he's not Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates. That's my wallet. He's not any of those guys, but he's pretty good. Let me ask you, speaking of Twitter timelines, as soon as that kind of happened, you tweeted out, you're being a reporter, doing your job, and the one thing you kind of left open, and I know that you're very careful on your tweets, but after that happened, you kind of put out there, kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I don't want to put words in my mouth, but I don't have the tweet in front of me. But you left it a little wide open that one of the receivers on the Browns could be traded after that, is what I took from it.
Sure.
If I've taken it wrong, tell me.
Right.
But just, do you really think Landry or Beckham could be moved?
Not Landry, no. But I do think Beckham could be moved. I just think he's the kind of guy where that's not going to go away. And when just the facts are that exactly a year and a week ago, the guys that traded for you are no longer employed by the team, and you make that kind of money, and the dead money's already would be swallowed by someone else, you're on the block, And so I think it would take the right trade. And if you'll notice right now, day 4 free agency, no receivers have gone anywhere because of this draft class. I don't think the situation will be, but the Browns are entering the territory when you pay a tight end $11 million and you pay a right tackle $20 million for 1 year. Like, you're entering the territory where the cap is about to matter, especially with Myles Garrett mega extension on the doorstep, right? So I did leave that open as a possibility. As far as David Njoku, they might want both to play, but he's a year from free agency. And I see Jason Witten getting $3 million from somebody. That means somebody will give a 5 or a 6 for Njoku.
Dude,
right? That's just...
what is John Gruden smoking?
Yeah, right.
He can't run.
No, he cannot run. He cannot run anymore. But hey, they had that Darren Waller last year, and they had a rookie. Yeah. They had a rookie who played at LSU, and there was no ball to go to him. So I just think Witten is there to honestly just be in the meeting room for those guys and to line up and catch 2-yard touchdowns. That's all.
Yeah, the Waller kid is talented. Though.
Yeah,
he's got a chance.
Yeah, but I would say this. I would say 4 days in, 6 or 7 guys in, the Browns have done a real solid job. There is no point in giving out A+. There's no point in Super Bowl proclamations, and there are some holes, but they've done a real solid job. To get guys like Hooper and Conklin, you're going to have to pay. They did. They got them done right away, and nobody else was touching those numbers. So you go forward with them. B.J. Goodson, just a guy. Who's the safety? Savage? No, it's Carl Joseph. Carl Joseph, yeah.
Joseph. Thought of highly, hasn't done much.
Yeah, no, he is just a guy, but he's played. That's important. Goodson's played. You get the fullback for nothing. That's a plus. Case Keenum, most important meeting in the room. That's money well spent. And you go get Andrew Billings. Honestly, my only point of contention there is the 1-year deal. I would have signed him for more because both those other guys are kind of headed for the market after this year. He's 25 years old. He's athletic. Right. So, the Bengals letting him go, I do wonder if there's something out there because this was like a second-round player that went to the 4th round 4 years ago. I'm just spitballing. I don't know anything. But, man, I just think, look, anytime you have all this change, you don't know. And anytime you are spending significant money in free agency, there is a risk just because history says they're not all going to work out. But they could still go get the safety if they want. They could still use some combination of Hunt, Beckham, Njoku to fill an exact hole if something pops months from now. And they've gotten better. They've added experience. They've added guys that have played in big games and have played in the playoffs. And they've taken – the NFL free agency is take your glaring weak areas and at least patch them up, if not give them a chance to be strengths. And if Conklin and Hooper play 16 games and meld and mesh with their team and teammates, those areas have the chance to become strengths. So still worry about the defense. Still think you have to worry about a rookie left tackle. But still don't know how any of this is going to go. But I think 4 days in, they were more aggressive than I thought they would be, and I think they've done a really solid job of making the team better in terms of looking at, okay, in 15 months, you need to be a contender in the AFC.
Yes. Hey, one more thing, the fullback that they got from Denver. I saw your tweets. I haven't been able to read the story yet. I've been reading a lot of stuff. Seems like the type of guy that will hang out with A to Z out in Portage Lakes in the rain
yes,
Saturday afternoon.
So the deal with him is he did an interview about a year ago when he signed his extension, and he kind of jokingly said to this reporter, I've spent all my football money on hunting gear, chewing tobacco, and Busch Light. He's a guy from small town Nebraska, and he said he'd been driving the same truck that he got when he was 17 years old, and so he did buy a new truck. And so I did, I talked to him yesterday on the phone, and I said, let's talk about Busch Light because this is what my friends drink. And he said, listen, when I drink beer, I absolutely drink Busch Light. It's not for everybody. And he said he talked to Ryan. A friend of his was Ryan Miller, who was a late-round pick of the Cowboys or the Browns many years ago, stuck with the Cowboys and eventually retired because of concussion concerns. But he said that he said to him, is Cleveland a Busch Light kind of city? And he said, oh, they buy it by the pallet there. And he said, so I can't wait to get there.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So listen, I mean, that is a good – that's what a good front office does. A fullback, Dre, is the ultimate non-renewable resource because they get paid to run into people, right? And he had a freak dislocated elbow last year that cost him 7 games, and he had another injury before that. But this is a guy that's done it and done it at a high enough level that just X amount of months ago, the Broncos extended him before they changed offenses. So now for a 7th-round pick, you go and you get a guy, and he's there, right? And you put him with Nick Chubb, and ideally with Kareem Hunt. Let me say this because, again, I really know better than to get in these Twitter arguments, and I don't want to come off as the be-all know-it-all. But I want you guys to know if we're going to have conversations, you got to have working knowledge here. The second-round tender on Kareem Hunt is so the Browns don't lose him for nothing, guys. The moment he signs that tender, all bets are off, right? No team is signing a running back with that kind of baggage, especially giving up a second-round pick and signing him to a multi-year contract with huge bonuses. So that means the Browns are getting him. And as soon as they sign him, that means he's on a one-year contract for $3 million with zero guaranteed to him and zero guarantees past December 30th for the Browns. So that means he's just a player about to hit free agency. And we know, again, the guys that brought him here don't work for the team. We know Kareem's history, whether you think he's a good guy, bad guy, in between guy who's been in the wrong place, wrong time. We know he's one mistake from never playing again. So he becomes one of those resources where you can look and say, we have our guy. And if we are going to pay Nick Chubb, then maybe we can move Hunt. Even if you don't think they're going to pay Nick Chubb, and I think they are, I think they have to, you only have Kareem's rights for one more season. So when I put it out there, if I'm the Bucs, I call Kareem Hunt because that is exactly the kind of workhorse back that could make Tom Brady better. And people say, would they have to give up a 2? No. And then all of a sudden I'm the dickhead for saying that you're a dumbass for saying that. But as usual, I'm right.
Well, one thing, I'll let you ride off in glory with that. The one thing that we're finding out right now is a lot of people just don't like facts. Yes. A lot of people want to hear what they want to hear, especially on Twitter. And you explained that really well. And I don't want to be Debbie Downer here, but I want to say something before we go. There's a couple things I want to say before we go. As I was looking at the timeline, as we both tend to do, we do our Dustin Fox of the show. One guy talks, the other guy gets entertained by 15 other things. Then remembers they're doing shit. I love him. And I really do love him. NFL update just came down. Head coach Sean Payton has tested positive for the coronavirus, per Adam Schefter. I'm going to say something that is not educated. That's just a person that lives in America. And it's just my opinion. I don't know everything to know about this virus. I do know that I have seen illness within my own family, within my friends and neighbors, basically since Thanksgiving. And I'm putting you on the spot with this because I didn't tell you I was going to tell you this. I don't know how strong this virus is. I don't know who to believe and what to believe. I do believe in science, and there's something to it. And I don't like blaming it on one country or this or that. But I got a feeling this thing has been around for a while, Zach. Remember I told you the day that Kobe Bryant died, I was as sick as I had ever been. And maybe I didn't have facts, but maybe I just know that I know within my own family I've seen a lot of illness, and I don't live in fear. I got a belief. I believe, and I just feel like we may be at the tip of the iceberg with this thing, Zach. But I'll tell you this, and I'm not afraid, but I have kept myself away from people and just been around my family. We found out last night that someone that worked for the Reds in the facility down in Goodyear, the Indians and Reds share land, basically, where their facilities are near each other. I'm just being honest. Since, January 20th, I've been out of the country, into the country. Since February 24th, 23rd, I've flown 4 or 5 times. I've been to Vegas and back. I've been to Arizona and back. You guys know my schedule. I've been around a lot of baseball players. I've been around a lot of coaches, and I've been in a lot of ballparks. I'm fine, and I'm not going to sit here and make some dropping. I guess what I'm saying is that I'm not afraid, but I wouldn't be surprised. I think all of us should look in the mirror and think about this as we go along with life. When you start saying, you just don't think these stars are just getting it, right? A lot of us haven't had a chance to get tested. A lot of us don't know. And I think when we see these big names that continue to get it, let's just be realistic. I read somewhere, I saw a doctor from somewhere else, from another country, say this, and it hit home. The best thing that we all could do right now is probably act like or think that we have it and stay the hell away from people, because there's a good chance that, it's a bug, it's a virus. You told the perfect story in the last podcast about the guy that walks into the high school basketball game, right? Uh-huh. You go to the ticket guy. You give a hug to the old lunch lady. You give a dap to the referee. You give a hug to your old buddy's friend. You got to dap up this guy. Got to hug this guy. Eat your nachos. I'm not a fear monger. I don't believe in fear. I believe in my faith. I just know where I've been, and I know that I give a lot of handshakes. I give a lot of pounds. I just don't think this thing is this one. I just don't think it's as simple as a lot of people want to make it. Be careful. Be smart, guys, please.
Yeah, I would just say that I totally, as much as I hate being confined, as much as I would love to be at a BW3s right now watching the games, right? Like,
me too.
I am in total respect of what the doctors, what the leaders, what people who know are saying, and anybody that's been directly affected, our thoughts are with you. I think we all have an understanding that we're doing this for a reason, that the numbers are going to spread, that, there's going to be possibly some measures that need to be taken. I don't know. It's not my area of expertise, but I think I hope that there's a healthy, respect for what is going on, what could be going on, and everybody's got to just play by the rules, and as we try to get back to some level of normalcy, right?
Right. And I'll say this: you got a grandfather that's over 90 years old, right? And
97. Yes.
97, and it's awesome every time you get to post a picture of him and talk about him golfing and yelling at your grandma, right? Like, I get a kick out of those. I know my buddy Nick Camino, God bless him. He's not tweeting during this. He's learned his lesson, but he's got some grandparents that that are very old. I guess what I'm getting at, look, we've all seen the video of the college kids that are on spring break, and they're just full of themselves and they're dumb. And I said to my wife the other night, I was like, shit, they look so dumb and sound so dumb. I go, hell, at 20, 21 years old, I was a dummy too. And I go, I don't know if I did that though. My wife made a good point. And this kind of, points out to where we're all at. She goes, yeah, you were stupid. She goes, but you had a brain. And she goes, when Columbine happened, that scared the shit out of you. I remember Columbine happening, and I walked out of a class with one of my best friends still to this day, and we were going to go get stoned. And the person that was going to go get us stoned told us what happened at Columbine. And I remember we went back to our apartment, and we didn't get stoned, and we sat there and watched TV, and we were in shock. And when the year and 9/11 happened late in my college career, and that paused me and gave me a different thought process on America. I hope that these kids can look at this, and I hate to compare 9/11 to this or Columbine to this, but those are things, Zach, in my lifetime that I'll never forget, just like the Challenger. I'll never forget because Judy Resnick went to the same elementary school I went to, and we were actually watching it in school when the Challenger blew up. And I'll never forget the teacher I had who had taught Judy Resnick in class bursting out in tears. Those are things, as you grow older, there's only certain things that you remember and you never forget. I hope that the younger people that can't take the full gauge of the importance of staying away from each other and doing what we're being told to do right now, I hope that they can open their eyes and realize it's not about you right now, man. But God, you would feel like a real shitbag if you got your grandfather sick, or if you got your mother or father sick, or they got someone sick and you lost them.
The last 2 days, Dre, the last 2 mornings I've gone and got coffee for my grandparents at McDonald's, and I go put it on their front porch. Get back in the car, call them as I pull away. There's coffee there for you. You just can't risk it. It's not worth the risk. It's just not. It sucks.
We went and met my in-laws today at a park, and we brought a soccer ball, and we literally stood in a big circle and just kicked the ball with each other. But we didn't get close, and we had to explain to our kids. And I know it's hard. I got a 5 and a 7-year-old. They're used to hugging my dad, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law. They're used to hanging. And we've had to tell them, and it's been all bit. And I'm saying this towards parents. I get it. The kids want to go out and fucking play. They want to be kids. And I know it's hard. There's certain people in my neighborhood right now that I want to break their necks because they got kids out playing and doing play dates and everything else. And I'm like, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. And not only are you not supposed to be doing that, it's making parenting harder for me because my kids don't get it. My kids want to go do that too.
Right.
But we can't do that right now. So just if you're caught up in and there's some people that are just hard headed. But don't be so hard headed and lack so much knowledge that you screw the rest of us over.
You know what Mindy's kid told her the other day?
What's that?
He said, Mom, you know what my favorite part about homeschool is? She said, what? He said, I can poop whenever I want.
That's my dog. That's my dog.
Hey, 2 things. One, when you talk about kicking the ball in the circle, shout out again to Jim France. What are those guys doing? Soccering that ball around? And also, speaking of blessings and what's going on and all that, today's my dad's birthday, and of course we got on the family group message and we just busted balls. I told him now that he's 68, maybe he can learn some life skills like being able to change a tire, and he let it go on, and because he doesn't want to text us, but he does. And he came back and he said, I'm fortunate to make it this far, and really, it's not just awesome in this time, but in general, you are. To make it that far, you probably need some breaks. I know I've had some to get to 40. I know you sure as shit had some to get to 42.
You ain't lying. You do need some breaks. And hey, shout out to Mr. October. I appreciate, the older I get, I appreciate our dads and the shit they put up with us to get to this point and this far in life. I shout out to them. Shout out to all the parents that have kids that are 15, 16, 17, 18 right now, and they got to be home with their kids. Yeah. Like, that's what I had to say to Jen the other day. I was like, man, we're lucky. Our kids are 5 and 7, full of energy and sugar and all that other shit. Imagine if they were a little bit older. And we've talked about the kids that are missing high school sports and things like that. That sucks. A to Z is for the kids, as you guys know.
Yeah.
We're going to go. I'm going to promote something real quick. There's a pot-a-thon coming. It needs a better name, but it is what it is. We're going to do a live video stream, hopefully, next Wednesday from 3 to 9, where we're going to sell online raffle tickets to some amazing prizes, experiences for teams, restaurants, establishments, etc. And basically, this is going to be a bunch of podcasts from Northeast Ohio. John Tellage will be a part of it. Mike Polk and Bill Squire will be a part of it. The Random Acts of Podcasting with Raconia and Angel Gray. Will Burge, the WFNY, Craig Lindell. Craig's been huge to us, helping us. We're all going to try to get together and pod together for about 5 hours straight, all in the name of helping others and helping kids with lunches and kids with things like that. Because if people will go on and listen to our two dumbasses talk and go back and forth and make fun of each other, and you can help somebody, it's the least we can do. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. We'll have it on our Twitter pages, and we'll have it on the Facebook page. But look for that next Wednesday from 3 to 9. We're going to be a part of that for an hour, just to do our part to help out those that need it.
Yeah, when we know more details, we'll certainly tweet about that, not just because we got nothing else to do, but we will share that. It's something we're going to be glad to do, and we don't know the exact details on that, but we'll do it. What was I going to say? Yeah, so, guys, a couple of you sent in suggestions for things to talk about during this non-sports time. Thank you. A, keep them coming. B, when it's not NFL free agency frontline stuff, we will get to those. I had a couple ideas on my own. So we're going to be able to do this. I mean, we were going to pod yesterday, but I went to bed at like 7:30, and we were able to get to it this afternoon. Hell, we might do one tomorrow. You never know.
We really might.
I can tell you that this Sean Payton news is going to cancel. The only sport on TV on Saturday was going to be horse racing, but it's going to cancel this because he was at Oaklawn Park last Saturday.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So, but anyway, beyond that, our sponsors, Scene, the Honeymoon Grill, American Fireworks, they've been good to us. Be good to them if you get the opportunity to do so. And remember, as we process this, guys, Todd Gurley, only 25 years old. So, man, in the NFL, you just never know.
Best running back in the NFL 2 years ago, right? That's what we were all touting. Had all the commercials, had all the other great stuff, and boom, just like that.
And his contract blew the others out of the water. Remember when we actually were talking about?
Oh yeah.
And someone was like, "Guys, you missed the Gurley contract." We're like, "Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
We really did." Hey, you brought up Scene magazine. Scene's been great to the AZ podcast. They're going through a tough period of time right now. I had to lay some people off. I'm not into telling people what to do with their own money, but having reporters and having people give you the news and get you the news, you don't have to like everything Scene magazine's about. I don't read every article. I loved having one when I was in college, and got a little bit older and was in the bar scene and that. But if you're into donating, helping people out, they had to lay off most of their staff. They've been good to us. They put us up. If you're into donating, if you want to help, and I know that's tough for everybody to do, help those guys out because you may take it for granted, but we need all the publications we can because it's not about just right now. It's about who are we and where will we be in 6 to 8 months and even a year from now. So my thoughts are with all the guys at the Scene magazine. Hopefully they can bounce back from this.
All right. Stay positive, y'all. Talk to you soon.
Konnichiwa, this silly-ass disease.